Green Bay, Wisconsin, February 5th, 1985. The air was crisp, streets quiet. Snow blanketed the neighborhood, a pristine white canvas. Children's laughter echoed as they built snowmen, their mittens bright splashes of color. Shirley Andronowicz, a loving mother and wife, was at home, the aroma of freshly baked cookies wafting from the kitchen. It was an ordinary winter day, the kind that blends seamlessly into the tapestry of life in a tight-knit community. Neighbors exchanged friendly waves, their faces reflecting the peace of a town where doors were often left unlocked. Life was simple, predictable, safe. No one could have predicted the darkness that was about to descend upon their peaceful haven, shattering the tranquility and leaving an indelible mark on their lives. Shirley, known for her warm smile and generous spirit, was a pillar of the community. She volunteered at the local library, her love for books rivaled only by her devotion to her family. Her husband Jim worked as a mechanic, his calloused hands a testament to his tireless work ethic. They were a picture of ordinary happiness, their lives intertwined with the fabric of Green Bay. Theirs was a love story etched in shared dreams, quiet evenings by the fireplace, and the unwavering promise of a future together. This was a place where people looked out for each other, where children played freely, and where the American dream was woven into the very streets they walked. But fate, as it often does, had a cruel twist in store. The sanctity of their home, the warmth of their love, would soon be violated in the most horrific way imaginable. The idyllic facade of their lives was about to crumble, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions, unbearable grief, and a community grappling with the chilling realization that evil could penetrate even the most peaceful of places. The darkness was insidious, creeping in like a thief in the night, poised to steal their peace and replace it with a chilling fear that would linger long after the snow had melted. The following morning, the silence was deafening. The snow blanketed the town, muffling every sound, creating an eerie stillness that seemed to hang in the air. It was as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable discovery that would shatter the peace. Children, bundled in their snowsuits, waited for their playmate, their laughter replaced by confused whispers. They huddled together, their breath visible in the cold air, their eyes darting towards the house where their friend lived. The absence of their playmate was a mystery that none of them could understand, a puzzle that left them feeling uneasy. Jim Andronowicz returned home from work, his heart heavy with a nameless dread. The day had been long and uneventful, but a sense of foreboding had followed him like a shadow. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong, a feeling that grew stronger with each step he took towards his home. The house was unusually quiet, the aroma of cookies replaced by an eerie stillness. The warmth and comfort that usually greeted him were absent, replaced by a cold emptiness that sent a shiver down his spine. The silence was oppressive, a heavy blanket that seemed to smother every sound. Panic welled up in his chest as he called out for Shirley, his voice echoing in the empty hallway. Each unanswered call only heightened his fear. The silence that followed each shout a stark reminder of the absence that now filled the house. His heart pounded in his chest, a frantic rhythm that matched the growing sense of dread. His worst fears were confirmed when he stumbled upon a scene that would forever be seared into his memory. The sight before him was a nightmare come to life, a tableau of horror that defied comprehension. His mind struggled to process what his eyes were seeing, the reality of the situation too terrible to accept. Shirley lay lifeless on the living room floor, her body bearing the brutal marks of violence. The vibrant life that had once animated her was gone, extinguished by an act of unspeakable cruelty. The room, once filled with warmth and love, was now a crime scene, a place of death and despair. The vibrant life that had pulsed within her was gone, extinguished by an act of unspeakable cruelty. The marks on her body told a story of violence and pain, a story that Jim could hardly bear to hear. The reality of her death was a crushing weight, a burden that threatened to overwhelm him. The peace of their home was shattered, replaced by the chilling presence of death. The once cozy and inviting space was now a place of fear and sorrow, a stark reminder of the fragility of life. The air was thick with the scent of blood and despair, a miasma that clung to every surface. Jim's anguished cries pierced the quiet neighborhood, drawing concerned neighbors to their doorstep. His grief was a raw, primal sound, a howl of pain that echoed through the streets. The neighbors, drawn by the sound, gathered in front of the house, their faces etched with concern and confusion. The news of Shirley's murder spread like wildfire, leaving a trail of shock and disbelief in its wake. The community, once tight-knit and trusting, was now a place of fear and suspicion. The news traveled quickly, each retelling adding to the sense of horror and disbelief. The idyllic tranquility of their community was irrevocably broken, replaced by a chilling fear that sent shivers down the spines of even the most hardened residents. The once peaceful streets were now filled with whispers and glances, the sense of safety shattered by the brutal reality of Shirley's death. The police arrived, their faces grim, their eyes scanning every detail of the crime scene. They moved with a practiced efficiency, their every action a testament to their determination to solve the case. The gravity of the situation was evident in their expressions, a silent acknowledgement of the horror they were now tasked with unraveling. Evidence was meticulously collected, fingerprints dusted, photographs taken, and every inch of the house scrutinized for clues. The forensic team worked methodically, their movements precise and deliberate. Each piece of evidence was a potential key to unlocking the mystery, a step closer to finding the truth. The investigation was underway, a race against time to bring Shirley's killer to justice. The detectives knew that every moment counted, that each passing second was a chance for the killer to slip further away. Their determination was palpable, a driving force that pushed them to work tirelessly. Detectives, their faces etched with determination, worked tirelessly, fueled by a potent mix of grief for the victim and a burning desire to ensure that such an atrocity would never again plague their town. Their resolve was unshakable, their commitment to justice unwavering. They knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but they were prepared to see it through to the end. The weight of their responsibility was immense, their every action scrutinized by a community desperate for answers. The pressure was intense, the stakes higher than ever. The detectives knew that they were not just solving a crime, but also restoring a sense of safety and trust to a community that had been deeply shaken. The investigation was arduous, each dead end amplifying the frustration and despair. The lack of progress was a constant source of tension, a reminder of the enormity of the task at hand. The detectives pushed on, driven by a relentless determination to find the truth, no matter how elusive it seemed. The lack of a clear motive only deepened the mystery, casting a wide net of suspicion over the once peaceful community. The detectives knew that understanding the motive was key to solving the case, but it remained frustratingly out of reach. Each new piece of evidence brought more questions than answers, adding to the complexity of the investigation. Neighbors, once accustomed to exchanging pleasantries over picket fences, now eyed each other with suspicion, the bonds of trust frayed by the chilling realization that a killer walked among them. The sense of community was eroding, replaced by a pervasive fear and distrust. The once friendly faces were now masks of suspicion, each person a potential suspect in the eyes of their neighbors. The investigation was a puzzle, each piece of evidence a tantalizing clue that promised to unlock the truth. The detectives worked tirelessly to fit the pieces together, each new discovery a step closer to solving the mystery. The process was painstaking, but they knew that persistence was key. But for now, the killer remained elusive, hidden in the shadows, leaving behind a trail of devastation and a community grappling with the devastating consequences of violence. The sense of loss was profound, the impact of the crime felt by every member of the community. The search for justice was far from over, but the detectives were determined to see it through, no matter how long it took. The investigation into Shirley Andronowicz's murder began immediately, a whirlwind of activity descending upon the once peaceful neighborhood. Detectives, their faces etched with determination, fanned out across Green Bay, interviewing neighbors, friends, and anyone who might have crossed paths with Shirley in the days leading up to her death. Every lead was meticulously pursued, every whisper of information scrutinized for potential relevance to the case. The weight of their responsibility was immense, knowing that a community's hope for justice rested on their shoulders. The initial investigation, however, proved frustratingly fruitless. There were no signs of forced entry, no obvious suspects, and no witnesses to the crime. The murder weapon, presumed to be a blunt object, was missing from the scene, further complicating the investigation. Days turned into weeks, and the trail grew colder with each passing hour. The lack of progress fueled a growing sense of unease within the community. The specter of Shirley's unsolved murder hung over Green Bay like a shroud, casting a long shadow over the once familiar streets. Despite the setbacks, the detectives remained relentless in their pursuit of justice for Shirley. They painstakingly pieced together a timeline of her final days, hoping to uncover any detail, no matter how small, that might lead them to her killer. They pored over forensic evidence, searching for any trace of DNA or fingerprints that could break the case wide open. Each dead end fueled their determination, their commitment to finding Shirley's killer unwavering. They knew that somewhere out there, hidden amongst the shadows, was a person capable of unspeakable violence, a person who needed to be stopped before they could hurt anyone else. The investigation was a grueling marathon, a test of endurance and resolve. The detectives, fueled by a potent mix of grief for the victim and a burning desire to bring her killer to justice, refused to give up. They knew that the smallest detail, the most seemingly insignificant piece of evidence, could hold the key to solving the case. Their dedication was unwavering, their commitment to the truth unshakable. They owed it to Shirley, to her grieving family, and to the community that had been shaken to its core. The pursuit of justice was a promise they intended to keep, no matter the cost.